Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my channel. Thank you all for visiting. Appreciate you very much. Today, I wanted to come on and talk about something that I find rather amusing, actually. Um, Lately, I've been very vocal on X as well as other places about my support for the Israelis as well as the Jews on the whole over there and their um, just their rights to exist as a country, which is baffling that some people think they shouldn't exist. I just don't. I don't get that. They have one tiny sliver of a nation, and there's people out there who think they should be either wiped out or relocated. I don't know what the problem is, but generally speaking, I've gotten a lot of flack over it, and that's fine. I mean, bring it on. If you're going to attack me for supporting Israel, go ahead and do so. I am a Christian, I am an American, but I do support Israel because they are my kin. Um, and anybody that is a Christian, I believe, should be in the same mindset. You know, it's a plain fact of reality. I mean, the first prophets were Jews in the Bible. Um, and the Bible's also very clear. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed. You know. And I've had people tell me, well, that doesn't count. That's Old Testament. But see, that logic doesn't hold up because then we could say, okay, well, let's just not obey the Ten Commandments because that's Old Testament as well. See, so it's like, what are we doing? Are we just kind of picking and choosing, what laws we go with or what we listen to and what we don't? Because I don't remember any commandment saying you could do that. You can just kind of pick and choose what you listen to and what you don't. You know, and they say, well, you don't understand, brother. That was old Israel. Today's Israel is completely different. How? How is it any different? Explain to me, please, and do it from a biblical standpoint. Don't just sit there and ramble on, try to play word salad on. Ain't nobody got time for that. All right. The fact of the matter is, it is a country called Israel, and it has Jews. So how is it any different? I'm just not really seeing that. But people that ignorantly think that I'm going to back down on my support of them, you know, are very much mistaken. Matter of fact, I'm going to double down, and that's what I'm doing here today. Is I'm telling you my stance. And again, if you want to hate me for that, that's fine. And then I also get just a bullshit argument like, well, if you care about those Jews so much, why don't you go over there and fight for Israel? Well, if you care about the border so much here in America, why aren't you signed on with ICE? Why don't you go down? No, no, you put money where your mouth is. Go down there, go and join ICE and go round up cartel leaders and stuff. Oh, you're not going to? So I guess you really don't care about the border. You don't care about American citizens. You see how ridiculous that argument is? So no, I don't buy that one either. Get it out. Um, you know, like I said, the Jews are my kin, and I am a Christian, you know. And I don't just wear this cross for posture, I don't just wear it to, you know, put on airs or anything like that. I actually study the Bible. See, y'all want to read it and quote tweet it and say, well, see, I read it, so I know. No, you know nothing. You know nothing. There's a difference between reading Bible and studying Bible. Y'all need to realize that and stop being ignorant. Because the fact is, if you study the Bible, then you discover that it was not the Jews that crucified Christ. It was individuals living in Judea at that time that did so. But they were the descendants of Cain. They were Kenites, who was the descendant of Satan. Okay? So you're giving them a bad rap because of your continued ignorance. And it disgusts me that people that that the Israelis, they are fighting terrorism on a daily basis. They are surrounded by wolves on all sides, you know. But because you live no, because you live in your bubble, right? Your paradise, you don't see reality beyond your world. And because you've got something miserable going on in your life, you decide you want to blame the Jews for all your problems. Oh, well, our government's doing things I don't approve of, so it's the Jews' fault. Or I don't have a job, so it's the Jews' fault, or whatever. No. You know what? And you know what? Let's say it was Jews that crucified Christ. For a moment, for argument's sake. You're telling me you're going to hold modern day Jews 2,000 years later accountable for the actions that some of them might have participated in, and I don't believe they do, but let's say they did. It doesn't matter. That was 2,000 years ago. We're moving on. And before y'all come at me, well, they crucified my king. Well, my king, that is Christ, taught that you're supposed to forgive people. And he would even be willing to forgive those who crucified him because that's his message. That's what he cared about. You don't, however, because you're a fake and a phony. Again, like I said, study Bible. Don't just read it and quote tweet it like you wrote the damn thing. And you'll understand that that's our brother Judah over there. Okay? And maybe you'll have a little bit more respect for what they're going through even right now. You know, I was told by somebody who, people who live over there, how much that they love America. And no, don't give me the BS about, oh, they only love us because we take their money. Fuck off. If that's your first answer, then you have nothing but a bigoted dark heart, and you can take that narrative and shove it straight up your ass. We have a kinship with them. And to see that there's so many people that just hate and just blame them for everything that they, and or any time that there's some CEO or some corrupt individual, and they just happen to identify as Jewish, they automatically point that out. Why do you have to point it out? Why can't you just point out the individual and say, this person is doing bad things? No, you have to insert this Jewish person is doing bad things because you want to control the narrative. You want to use your language to manipulate people into that dark hatred that you have. And my message to fellow Christians is don't fall for that nonsense. It's bullshit. They're trying to drag you through the mud and get you to hate somebody that you don't need to be hating on for no good reason. Now, if you want to attack fundamentalist Islam, which is, you know, butchered and raped their way and continue to do so, by all means do so. You know, with these people in, you know, various countries that, you know, in the Middle East, Islamic, right? Sharia law, all that. Hey, they're doing that right now, you know. But it's funny because if you see somebody that's corrupt and they happen to be Muslim, you don't point that out. Or Christian, you don't point that out. You don't add that on. No, you only do it when it's the Jews. That's disgusting, abhorrent behavior. You should be ashamed of yourself. Of course, you don't have any shame to begin with, but, you know, we can hope, right? It's sickening. And so, like I said, I stand where I stand. I'm not going to back off my support of my Jewish brothers and sisters, right? They're my kin. I'm a Christian, and I see the spiritual bondship that we have. While we may disagree on who the king is, we definitely agree on who God is. And we follow the same God. Now, don't want any of you out there, if you are a Christian, don't ever forget that. Just because they haven't, you know, they don't see things the same way what we do, doesn't mean they don't follow the same God that we follow. And so it's important for us to stick together because they are our kin and we are theirs. So don't listen, don't let these fools, you know, whoever it is, whether it's, you know, politicians or people online or whoever, to try and drag you down into the anti-Semitic hate by tacking on, oh, well, of course it was a Jew this time. Get that nonsense out of here. Nobody's got time for it. Anyway, that was my ramble. Thank you for checking into my channel. If you want to see more of my videos, hit the like, the bell, the sub, all that good stuff, and leave a comment if you feel like doing so. In fact, I encourage it. Please comment away. Whether you agree, whether you don't agree, just let me know. Anyway, so have a good day, folks. I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.